All right, so we're back again for another one. Tonight I have fanboy enthusiast,
Nerd extraordinaire.
nerd extraordinaire Ryan. How
Clearly,
you
I have
doing
a lot of
today,
shame
man?
around that.
How you doing, man?
Oh, not bad.
Good, good.
This fucking episode.
That's a good way to put it, man.
I listened the other day to our last episode and I was like kicking myself. You know, it ends with Jin and Fennec being like, hey, Boba needs some muscle, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'll do it for free. I owe you one, basically.
Right.
And somehow I missed the last line of the episode, or somehow I just like, no, it can't mean that. He's like, I gotta go visit a little friend. And I don't know if it just didn't click or my brain, because he goes and visits Grogu. And the thing is, at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian, where Grogu is off with Luke, it's like they go off in the elevator and they're not like, here's our forwarding address.
Right.
Like, who knows? Maybe they ran down and were like, hey, wait. Where are you taking my boy? Where are you taking my boy? I want to come visit.
Right.
I just assumed they're gone. They're
Yeah.
off into the galaxy and not going to be a thing, right?
Right.
The second they like cut to this planet, I'm like, where's Mando going? I'm like, no. And then it's R2. I'm like, oh my God. He's going right now to Grogu. It caught me by surprise.
Right. And it leads me to the question, like, what show are we watching?
I saw
What are we watching?
Best joke I saw about that was like, it's a picture of Boba Fett on his throne, and it's like, just announced in the next episode of Boba Fett, the next cameo in the show will be Boba Fett. It's like, yes, this is a lot. It was one thing with like that last episode.
Right.
And the whole episode, of course, this whole episode is not just Mando. Like, it doesn't start with Mando. It starts with, what is it, Cobb? I think Marshall Cobb on Tatooine. But it's still like, there is the meat and potatoes of this episode. Literally the center of it is Mando. And, oh my God, Luke. We got more of Luke, like, which surprisingly pissed some people off. Not that they got more, but his choice for Grogu. Apparently, I saw some things where people were like, what is he doing making him choose? I'm like, okay.
I just thought it was very interesting considering what needs to happen in such a limited amount of time and what happened the following week. Because I remember hearing him saying that he had to go pretty much take a gift to Grogu. But that could have been like, okay, we'll check that out in season 3 of The Mandalorian. Not like next episode, you pulling up. I was surprised to even see that it was continuing. I'm kind of thinking like, is this really the time for this? Because this was really a full episode and it's kind of like what we wanted to see, but this is what we want to see in the show that it's supposed to be in.
Yeah.
Because we're in the middle of something. We're already kind of losing a little momentum already because of last week's, which I appreciate and really liked. But it also made me think about how much I like Mandalorian more than what's kind of going on in the current show that we're watching.
It's kind of funny. They sort of sandwiched or bookend the whole episode with Boba Fett plot, and then Mando's in the middle.
Right.
It's like mostly, well, I don't know. There was so much going on in this episode. Like, it doesn't feel the same as the previous one that was all Mando, but like, I feel like more happened in this episode than in maybe episode 2 or 3 of Book of Boba Fett, aside from the flashbacks.
Yes, I agree.
Like, the flashbacks, don't pare that down. That's core. That's essential. But a lot of the other stuff, just there wasn't meat there, right? I
agree.
It wasn't quite filler, but it wasn't filling. But everything here in this episode, we got the scene with Cobb, where he basically comes on the Pike Syndicate, doing a drug exchange, and he's basically like, "Look, don't do this shit here.
Right?
Like, just leave. You should leave." And they're like, we're gonna try and shoot you. Course, he draws down on them, boom, boom, boom. 3 out of 4 down. He's like, all right, you need to tell your buddies, I'm the marshal here, I'm the law, fuck off, don't come back. Don't be trading this stuff here.
Right.
Kicks out the spice into the dust. Guy leaves. I'm like, okay, interesting. So now it's not just Boba Fett's crew that is engaging with the Pike Syndicate. Okay, cool. That comes in later in the episode, and then we get all the Mando stuff. Let's skip all the Mando stuff. Talk about all the Boba Fett stuff, and then do all the Mando stuff, because it is two separate shows.
It is.
Really is.
But we're still stuck on the same place we were episode before last anyway, when they were trying to get their team together on what they were going to do.
On that point, like, Boba Fett hasn't done any other prep work. Mando's doing prep work, because Mando goes and talks to the Marshal and tries to recruit the Marshal's townfolk and crew.
Right, in which I kind of figured he's got to get some folks from the towns because he needs the people. But what do you feel about the whole spice trading thing? I thought it was very interesting on how it was brought up so late in the series, and now it was like a big thing. Like, we ain't never seen no spice. We didn't really hear about it until recently, and now it's like a big major point of this. When before I thought it was more about running water, and now we're hearing about this spice stuff, and I'm like, where'd this come from? It was a slight mention in the garage.
Yeah, that was one episode ago. That was episode 5.
Exactly. And here we are now seeing like the spice getting ran through towns and stuff, to the point where the heavies are coming through and coming like, hey, don't mess with the spice.
For the Marshal, he's basically doing the same thing Boba Fett did with the train.
Right.
On a smaller scale, which is, don't come around here.
Right.
Don't run your shit through here.
Right.
I mean, Boba was more like, you're going to pay if you come through here.
Right.
But it puts him in the crosshairs, which leads to the scene at the end of the episode where so as I told my wife, because she's not nearly into Star Wars, but I told her, like, holy shit, Dave Filoni is pulling all his toys out of the toy chest.
Yes, he is.
So because Cobb told the Pike Syndicate to fuck off, later in the episode, after Mando tries to recruit him and he's outside and some stranger walks in from the desert. And the second I saw his hazy silhouette, I was like, no fucking way. No fucking way. As someone who did not watch the Clone Wars in the entirety, in order, or anything else, swear I got highlights on, like, it was IO9, like my favorite sci-fi website. They would just do recaps of shows. I'm like, okay, I don't have cable. All right, give me the recap. So Cad Bane is a badass motherfucker. Like, he was in canon through Clone Wars. He was the Boba Fett before Boba Fett. If you wanted not just the best mercenary in the galaxy or best bounty hunter, if you wanted a mercenary that would do anything for anyone if they paid well enough, it's him.
Right.
So yeah, that was like, oh shit.
Right.
So he's the enforcer for the Pike Syndicate, or he somehow involves them. I don't know if he's running them, but he's definitely working with them. And because the Marshal stepped out of line and told them to screw off, he's like, you're going to stay out of the way. The same thing that Boba Fett basically said to the families, like, you need to stay out of the way. You need to stay neutral.
Right. And I thought it was very interesting the way he kind of said, that Boba Fett is basically a ruthless mercenary and this and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, like, the Boba Fett that I've been watching? Is this the same?
So I haven't had time to go through and look at the whole backstory thing, but like, he was involved in multiple seasons of the Clone Wars. And you know who else was involved in a major arc in the Clone Wars? Boba Fett as a child.
True. That's true.
That's like, because it picks up after the Clone Wars, after his dad is killed. And at like 12, 13, he's already prepping to wreck shop and like get vengeance on the Jedi. Again, I've not seen that whole arc. So I don't know if Boba Fett and Cad Bane had interactions within Clone Wars, but supposedly, because I was looking at Cad Bane's information, there was scrapped plot points in animatics for when Clone Wars got canceled, all right, by Cartoon Network, because the following 2 seasons there was going to be an arc where they team up and Cad mentors Boba Fett until they get to a point where they're basically doing a job that Boba Fett's like, oh, wait a minute, no, I'm not doing this. And they have a duel, and Boba Fett, they both shoot each other in the head at the same time. And because Boba Fett's wearing the helmet, he doesn't die. That's where he gets the dent in his helmet.
Oh,
see, that's one of those things where it's like the Solo movie where they're like, hey, you want to learn how Han met Chewie? Hey, do you want to learn how he got the 12 parsec? Like the whole thing.
right.
It's like, okay. But this was Dave Filoni, like, drawing a circle around the dent in the helmet. That's how that happened. But Cad Bane maybe died from that. Maybe he got a plate in his head, who knows? But that never got resolved, even when sort of the Clone Wars got renewed and they sort of had their final season. But yeah, Dave Filoni's like, all right, well, I got Ahsoka back in my show. Cool. Now I'm just going to pull in another character.
Exactly.
And we'll have to see. I don't think this Pike Syndicate arc is going to get wrapped up at all.
How could it?
This season? There's no way.
I don't see how it could.
Plus, they're not going to introduce Cad Bane and then have him go away after one more episode. Like, he's fulfilling, I think, not only a structural role that he did within Clone Wars, where he was an antagonist multiple different ways for other antagonists against the Jedi. So Darth Sidious hired him, Palpatine, under his Darth Sidious persona to steal shit from the Jedi Temple. He got hired by Count Dooku to kidnap and kill Palpatine. Like, at every turn, like, the Jedi are like, oh, we have to stop this bad guy because we stand for order. But what Boba Fett's show has not had is a antagonist personified. Like,
Right.
slowly we're getting like, oh, the Pike Syndicate seems to be the antagonist, but they're an amorphous group. Like, there
Right.
hasn't been, hello, I am Dickbag McDiggins from the Pike Syndicate, and I will be your antagonist, right? It's gonna be Cad Bane, right?
Right.
Whether he's running them or just working for them, he gets to be the antagonist personified for Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Cool, because now we've got someone who is definitely on the same level as Boba Fett.
Because Boba Fett basically been dealing with politicians this whole time.
Right. And Cat does not fuck around, which gives us the last scene of the episode, because we're just jumping around in order now, it doesn't matter. The casino. You got two Pike Syndicate guys coming in, and they're carrying what this container thing that they've introduced, literally like season 1 of Mandalorian, where it's like, oh, people carry money around in that? All right, cool, like, whatever. You see it at the beginning of the episode where they got the money, they're doing the spice exchange, here's the Republic credits, and they're walking in with it. I'm watching this scene and I'm like, all right, why are they gonna bring money? I'm like, what's going on? And they sit down, I'm just like, something's off. And the casino manager, she sends the two Twi'leks over to be like, hey, we'll wash your helmets for you, And I'm like, ooh, she's setting them up to get ambushed? Like, I don't know what she's doing. Is that their standard operating protocol? It's dusty, we'll clean your stuff.
Right.
They're like, no. And then they immediately get up, and I'm like, oh shit, they didn't bring the thing, it's a bomb. And I'm like pushing my wife in bed next to her, like, it's a bomb. She's like, what? Because she's like on her phone, not paying attention. I'm like, it's a bomb. They left the thing. They walked in with the thing. They left the thing. It's a bomb. And I'm just like, fuck. And then the casino blows up.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go on a small rant here.
Okay.
As much as this should be like, yep, nope, they killed everyone in there, right? Because this is the Pike Syndicate escalating and also kicking the dog. They are just killing innocent people, and not random innocent people that the show has set up. We know who they are, right? There's a little bit of connection with them. It's meant to be a kick in the teeth. I really think they are throwing the baby out with the bathwater if the casino manager actually died.
I don't think she did.
I really hope.
She'll be under a table or something.
I don't know. Looking at that explosion.
I know.
Now,
but...
the thing is like, we don't see, oh, there's the two Pike guys walking out the doors. Okay, we're looking at her clock. All right. And 10 seconds later, boom, everyone blowed up. All right, that's too quick. We don't know, but it could be someone else's casino. Is like, hey, they left that at their table, and she's just like, oh, we're out. Everyone out.
Right.
Doors left and right. Go. Get in the basement. Get in the wine cellar. Whatever. I really hope she got out. Now here's why. You've got not only an interesting character because she's whip smart. Like, as much as this is a show about a bunch of badasses, I like a character who can use their social intelligence, their emotional intelligence to survive. Right? And that's what she is. But the other thing is, Boba Fett has set up like, hey, I'm the new boss. You know, things will keep progressing under my watchful eye, which is meant to be, you're going to pay me protection money. That's what this is. I'm going to make sure everything goes smoothly. No one is allowed to fuck with you because I own this place. I own you. You work for me, which means he's on the hook to protect them. So there's two components there. One, the Pikes blew up a place supposedly under his protection. That makes him look weak. But also, directly for her, he did not fulfill his half the bargain. Right? You can have an exchange with them. I don't think they're going to, put this in on the next episode. But she can just directly challenge him now of like, if you want to be in charge, what the fuck are you doing? Right? If you're gonna be the boss, then you need to protect us. It's how this works.
Especially if you survived her setup in the first place.
Right?
Her original setup.
Yeah, they shouldn't waste her.
No, I hear you. But just like on the topic of people seemingly dying but probably gonna survive, I felt the same way with, like, I knew that deputy was dead, but the marshal, I think he's still alive.
Yes. I don't think they're going to waste him either.
Yeah.
He got the classic, oh, in the shoulder, but... Right. No one said, oh, he's dead!
Right. But, the deputy, they made sure
Deputy's toast because he put like 5 shots into him. Oh, man. They did such... This is such a small thing. They did such a great job setting up, know what's going to happen, because in the brief interactions you've seen with that deputy, he's a dumb hothead.
And talking to the wrong people, talking crazy. Cause Mando, he gonna talk to Mando like that? Like,
right? Try to step up on Mando, like, dude, yeah, okay. So it's just so perfect because credit to the deputy. The marshal tells him to go back inside, which on the one hand should be like, all right, boss, you got it. And then I'm gonna peek out through a window, as opposed to, no, I'm not going to go back inside. But it's really like, it's not even so much like just stupid defiance. Right. It's not that. He's like, oh, the marshal's worried about this guy. I'm not going to leave him. But that's exactly what gets him killed. Right. Is that he sees the tension between the two. Right. And he's the one that starts going for the gun, getting the itchy trigger finger. And even the marshal, out of the corner of his eye, can feel he doesn't break eye contact with Cad.
That's some great acting too, by the way.
And just turns his head slightly, and he just, given 2 more seconds, he would have brought his left hand up and just like back up. He would just done the backup signal, like tone it down. Nope. He would have de-escalated. It was too fucking late. Right.
Yeah, because the deputy in the first place was talking about, hey, the marshal doesn't take bribes. We don't take bribes here.
Oh, shut up, dude.
I'm like, man. And the marshal basically just said, kind of like, you're making this a mess.
You are painting me into a corner.
Yes.
Because if he thought maybe he could bribe me, I could bullshit him and pretend like I was going to be okay with that.
And nobody have to get hurt.
Right.
Yeah,
but the marshal's gonna be back because now
the people.
Honestly, the marshal was already thinking like, before Cad shows up, he's already
Right.
he told him like we need to have a meeting.
Right.
Like he was gonna at least discuss it.
Right.
Put it on the table, let them choose.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'll get to our other theme later. But let them choose, discuss it with him, and then Cad shows up and like takes the choice away. And now it's gonna be, oh no. Everyone's fucking on board. Cause you tried to kill our fucking Marshall.
Right.
Like we're obviously under threat.
Right.
Like it's not gonna end if we just stay on the sidelines. They're just gonna walk in the door.
Yeah, and it has to happen because he don't have the numbers. Just like it was brought up with Boba Fett talking about how, you know, when they were trying to talk this strategy, they do not have the foot soldiers. They do not.
Let's cut to the planning scene, because I've said multiple times I wanted a planning scene, and this was not it.
No, it wasn't. They just sat there and read off stuff we already knew and dealt with.
And like the only small smidge of detail was like, oh, they're positioned up here along the ridge, and you have to be looking at the map. You have to be looking at the holo map. They're up on the ridge, right? Because it's a big sort of like circular canyon thing. They're like they're positioned up here, but that's it.
Right.
It wasn't a big status update. Reestablishing the stakes.
Right. Fennec is like, we got the enforcers, we got the Wookiee, and we got Boba Fett, and the Wookiee's looking like, you looking at me? He looked out the corner of his eye like, but we're gonna need foot soldiers. I'm like, how can you even be talking like y'all even strategizing anything when you got like 7 people up in that room? What are you talking about? You're not playing no fancy football game.
And they didn't lay out anything.
No.
So there's 2 parts of it. There's they didn't lay out any strategy. We're in the second to last episode. This is why the whole thing's not going to get resolved. We're going to get a cliffhanger.
Gotta
get a cliffhanger. But the other bit that it's not out of character that Fennec's doing the strategy and laying things out, because I feel like she is the methodical assassin, where she is going to think through the 5-6 steps she needs to get her kill. Cool. But Boba Fett's the leader. Like, even if the 2 of them were sort of co-facilitating this meeting, where it's like, all right, we're going to do this over here. And then she's like, all right, and then we need to go and, get these resources out. Like, I'm totally on board with them co-captaining this football team, but they're basically just like, we need to throw it into the end zone.
I don't understand. To me, it looked like they were playing a chess game, right? And then on their side, they have 3 pawns, and they're talking about all the stuff they're going to do. That's what it looked like to me.
See, this could have worked. Even if they had come in and like everyone is reporting back, because I'm trying to remember if Mando has already talked to the Marshal at this point, or he leaves to talk to the Marshal. But if everyone is like, okay, I'm going to go and talk to this faction and report back. You're going to go and talk back to this faction. Like, oh, I already went and talked to the 3rd faction. Like, if they were at least implying that they're building allies, that would be like, cool, awesome, you're doing stuff.
Only person who did that was Mando, and he got a tentative. He didn't even get a confirmation, because when he left, the Marshal got shot. So he never even had a chance to have that conversation.
Right.
I don't understand why. Like I said, I'm glad that Mando is back. I don't understand what he's doing in this situation when we don't have the time. Like, this can't be the run up to the finale. What are you going to do with this? Like, it doesn't make sense. Okay, put it like this. If they used all the running space that they had, and we still didn't have enough to finish completely towards the end, and there's a little cliffhanger, I understand. But I don't feel good about a cliffhanger in a situation where you had 2 episodes that you wasted to fill in that blank.
Right.
Don't make me wait until next season when you gifted 2 episodes that could have wrapped this together in a way that makes some kind of sense.
Because all the stuff that's happened with Mando's arc in the last episode and in this episode easily been, like people have been saying, season 3 of Mandalorian. You could have had a small aside in one of these episodes where Mando is like, I'm in, I'll be around, right? And he can help recruit, do the exact same thing he did with Cobb. But all the rest of the stuff for Mando, you could do character work with him, because basically the start episode 5, when he's doing the bounty and stuff, he's back where he was, right? He's back where he was when Mandalorian started, where he's cut off. The only difference is now is that he's had that connection with Grogu and he's missing it. And there's lots of ways you can allude to that without taking up an episode and a half, right? And you can then pick up all the stuff that's been in so far and build that into his season. So it does seem like a waste of storytelling space within Book of Boba Fett to do Mando stuff when it's not driving this story.
Right. That's my point. I'll be upset if it does that when they had time where they could have filled it in. Because really, you know how he walked in and Finnick was like, this is the Mandalorian I was telling you about. And then Boba Fett just kind of looked at him and kind of turned his head back. I don't even know if he even spoke. Even how that was. Or it could have been like she was trying to call him on a communicator or something, and he's over there and he's sitting down and it looked like a jungle. You don't know where he's at. And he's kind of like responding like, I'm on my way back or whatever. And then on the Mandalorian season 3, you see where he's sitting. You see who he's with. You see when he goes find the armorer. It can show like little clips like he's trying to get back, but he got all this stuff going on. You don't know exactly what's going on. But when you see the Mandalorian, you see the other side of it. You get a full picture of where he kept, where he was during those times when he's supposed to be helping out or something like that. But
it's weird. I don't know if they need Mando to have his new ship to contribute in the way they're planning him to contribute or other stuff.
Boy, but those shots they keep showing of his ship is sweet, but they show that thing off. They did extra sweep around and even people cheering for him, and it's interesting. It's very interesting. Okay, so
that's all our complaints about the show that is Book of Boba Fett. Now let's talk about this other show that took place in the middle of it,
right?
Mandalorian.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Okay, so Mando flies in on unnamed planet, and I'm like, God damn it, you didn't name the planet. So mysterious planet, green planet. I'm like, all right, we're back to Mando again. Weird. I'm like, is he? And then he's flying along, and something on an instrument panel, I'm guessing his radar, something's pinging him or telling him where to land, and it's R2-D2. And I'm just like, oh, what? Mm-hmm. Already? We're going back to okay. So he's like, I want to see, Grogu. And
he asked for Skywalker.
I want to see Skywalker. I want to see the kid. I want to see Grogu. Right. And R2's like leading them back, and they're going through the bamboo forest, and you see a rock move, and then you see the rock come over the rise, and it's being carried by an ant droid, I guess is a great way of describing it. Because it turns out it's not alone. It's like this giant 6 foot long, like 4 foot tall ant droid, and it's carrying a big rock. And there's a bunch of these droids, and they're all bringing rocks, and they're all going in the same direction as R2 and Mando. And they're building a structure. And I'm just like, oh my God, they're building a new temple, which might be a little much. They're building a structure. I don't know if this is going to become a temple or whatnot, or even if Luke is even considering it that audacious or glorious or whatever. But it's like, we needed a building. We needed a place. So that was cool. That whole thing, just from like they're doing like automated construction. Cool. All right, cool. But the short version is he's there to see Grogu. And then we cut to, I think, I'm trying to remember it now because I didn't get to rewatch this episode all the way through. But we cut to Luke and Grogu.
Yeah.
And he's doing his training. And then Ahsoka shows up. And I'm like, oh my God. It's just like...
Yeah, because they do show them training. So it's Luke and Grogu, they're training. And they do like a little throwback to Grogu and his obsession with eating like little frogs and tadpoles and stuff like that. And so when he's supposed to be meditating, This is when we see Luke and he got his eyes closed, and Grogu's sitting across from him meditating, and he keep hearing these frogs. So then he has one eye open, kind of looking, and then he tries to like force choke a frog, and then Luke kind of catches him, and he drops the frog.
Luke's force eat a frog.
right, and then Luke kind of shows him how it's done, and he lifts up all these frogs that's in the water, and Grogu just kind of looking like, so he just kind of showing him like, if you, I guess, fight the temptation now, later on you'll be able to have so much more. And so,
well, I think because my wife was also like, why is Luke picking up all the frogs? And I think what Luke was really getting at, outside of like, you know, just like, this is what you could be doing, this is what's possible if you're not distracted, which I think gets into Luke's whole point of like, I don't think this kid's heart is in it, right? That's whole. So to my comment earlier about people being mad at Luke because he gives Grogu a choice. He's like, here's Yoda's lightsaber, which you could use, and this represents essentially you deciding you really want to become a Jedi. And here's this gift that the Mandalorian left for you. Rolls it out, and I called it. It was fucking chainmail, Beskar chainmail, dope. But that's your choice to not become a Jedi and to go back, you know, with essentially your family, right? Because it's difficult because Luke doesn't necessarily say like, if you have emotional connections, you can't be a Jedi.
He kind of, well, he said to have attachments wasn't the way of the Jedi.
Right.
So I took it as like you have to kind of give up everything to, and also he was saying the thing about how you age differently, basically, and what seemed like a quick time for you is long for somebody else. Yeah,
that was kind of rough, that bit, because it's like, basically it's like you're gonna outlive Mando no matter what.
Yeah. Like, and so I thought it was interesting, his lessons with Grogu and his approach with Grogu in a way. I think that he was very upfront. I think a lot of times when you see situations with teachers and stuff, but I guess that's how Yoda was with him too, because a lot of times you see like the person getting trained is getting tricked into a situation, or it's not this real challenge, nothing that would deter them from continuing on. But with this, it seemed like he was just kind of giving them for what it was and very straightforward and upfront about, you know, the cost of things, basically.
Yes. Which is why for me, people that were miffed at Luke that he was making Grogu choose, is like, he was giving him a choice.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. It wasn't like, like you got nowhere else to go. This is
exactly. He's like, look, we should be clear of what you're signing up for.
Right.
Because just like with Mando is missing Grogu, Grogu is missing Mando. Right. So he wants him to not be like, well, you're force sensitive, you have to be a Jedi. It's like, you should have a choice, and it should be something you really pick and are okay with. Right? Because otherwise, like with Mando fighting the Darksaber, he's going to be in conflict with himself. Right?
I like how they did it, because like I said, to me, he was selling his side of the story, or selling his pitch. Like, if you stay, this is what you can have. This is what you could be. This is our way. It's the same way he learned the way of Mando and the Mandalorians, you know? So I thought, okay, he got a chance to kind of see a breath of what each thing brings. Family, you know, adventures and things like that. And then over here, it's going to be a lot of training. It's going to be a lot of being to yourself and focus and stuff. So each thing has a cost, but it's kind of like, well, they gave their sales pitch and here's mine. But I do love, like I said, how upfront and honest he was about what the cost would be. Yeah.
And clearly he cares about what's right for Grogu. Not as like, well, he's force sensitive, we have to train him because otherwise he's going to be a danger. It's just like, no, let's not force feed this down his throat. So they could have just said not go. He could have said, hey, you know, could not show them the chainmail. They could have did a whole bunch of stuff to kind of keep them like, none of this happened. Don't worry about Mando. He's not looking for you. They could have did a whole bunch of stuff, but he was very upfront and open. Yeah, so. I think it was the right approach. Plus, the other thing is, let's be honest. If Grogu decides he's going to pick to stay with the Jedi, which maybe he's not.
Yeah.
I think he's not.
No.
Like from a storytelling perspective, it's much more interesting for him to not. For two reasons. Because then he can go and re-engage with Mando, and that becomes storytelling fodder right there. The other one is we kind of know what happens to Luke's student.
That's what I'm about to say. He don't have to dodge the rest of them.
This is the thing that sucks about that choice that they made with the sequels.
Yeah.
Is that because we wanted there to be no Jedi, because the storytellers for the sequels wanted there to be no Jedi except for Luke, all of his students died.
And once again, and we talked about this earlier in an early episode as well, and then also our conversation when we're just talking about Star Wars lore in general, how some of this stuff paints you into boxes, and it's kind of like sometimes it does affect how stories can be told. And you might have a great idea or something that you want to do, but you only have so much of the future depending on which lane you go down.
The fact now that Luke's not just a one-off. Right? Luke showing up at the end of Mandalorian and taking Grogu, I kind of thought was just going to be a one-off. And we weren't going to see Luke again.
Yeah.
We weren't going to see Grogu again.
Right.
But clearly, Dave Filoni is like, yeah, no, I'm willing to bring Luke back. I mean, you want to talk about storytelling options. Luke trying to build out an academy is amazing, but we know where that's going to end. And it just kills any interest in that, because it's just like, well, either we're going to watch him train students and they're going to go to the dark side and they're going to die, or they're going to get killed off here or there. Like none of them are going to survive because we know they're all doomed, and that fucking sucks.
And it was ironic when we saw like they finally finished building the school. This is the same shot they showed with the school being burned up and falling apart where it got destroyed. I'm like, this is the same shot. It was even lined up the same way. And I thought, boy, that's crazy. So like you said, it wouldn't make no sense to do anything with that or to show that, because you know what that's going to be.
I know.
So
when we did talk our first 2-hour-long talk about Star Wars lore and continuity, I mentioned Dave Filoni does have time travel in his back pocket. Because in the Rebels TV show, that is how Ahsoka is saved. Ezra Bridger is the protagonist, Force user, and they basically find a place that lets them go in between space and time. And there's portals that can be sort of directed to specific instances of time. And so in a previous season, before any of this happened, there was a confrontation between Darth Vader, Anakin, and Ahsoka, and Ezra Bridger in a Sith temple, and basically it ended with the temple closing with Vader and Ahsoka inside, and Ezra escaped, and it was assumed she died. And then in season or two later, they get to this space-time bridge place, whatever it is, and and Ezra sees that moment in time, sees Ahsoka about to die, basically reaches through the portal and pulls her into that space. Now, maybe that means he always did that and she never died there. She just disappeared in front of Vader.
Right.
But you open up some time travel shenanigans.
True.
So as much as like I don't think they're gonna do it, and I was kind of like, yeah, they should just let it go, whatever. Now I'm like, please, Dave, lift that narrative dead end from us, because it kind of takes the air out of the room. Like there's certain things that you just can't do because you know it's gonna go down the shitter.
Yeah, but that's if they would even do a show where it would just be Luke and all the training and stuff. I will say, when they first showed Luke again and he had his eyes closed, And I know usually with that, with that technology and stuff, usually when the eyes start moving and stuff, it's like it falls apart. Because to me, the last time I saw him, it was a little sketchy. Now I took it because I thought it was bold that they even tried it. It was rough, and it was a lot of, I think a lot of people had issue with it, myself included, just because it's almost kind of like you almost got it, but don't play around with that if it's not ready, because a lot of good things, like it had a good thing going with Mandalorian, and to bring in something like that if it doesn't go off correctly could deflate the whole thing that you're trying to do.
Right.
And it barely got away with it.
Yeah, they had enough, because I actually watched the behind the scenes, like they have Star Wars gallery, blah blah blah,
right.
And it was on that episode. I had not finished watching it, and and I think it was Dave Filoni, like, look, this is one component. The visuals, the special effects is just one component of selling this is Luke.
Right. And
so they had all these other things, the X-Wing slowly building up, where it's like they felt like it worked. This time in this episode, wow, it was a lot better.
It was on point.
There was like one shot where I was like, ooh, that looks off. But like all the rest of it, at one point I was like, did they find a stunt double? Like,
it looked really good, and he even had his voice down, which I really added to it as well. Yeah. Like they went there, and it's just like, if I remember correctly, I remember this guy kind of did a better job on YouTube, and I think they hired that guy who did the deep fakes.
That's right.
So they got him to come in there and do it, and it's such an improvement, man. The mannerisms, it just, like I said, it's only a few spots where it's kind of like, but for the most part, and they kept on him a lot.
Yes.
A lot. And I'm like, wow, that was just beautiful.
It was really good.
If this is what they could do like this, it's going to be a problem. So when we saw that R2-D2 kind of led Mando down this trail, he's sitting on a bench kind of waiting. He shuts down to the point where Mando's kind of like, wake up, don't, how long will I have to be here? Wake up.
They build him a bench.
And then eventually Ahsoka shows up.
Friend of the family. Like,
right.
Dude, when she dropped that is such a just giant wink at the fans.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yes. And so he said, well, I came to see Grogu. And she said, I know. And that's why R2-D2 brought you to me. I thought it was pretty cool. The whole thing with the family thing, that also goes to the thing where she gave the comment to Luke about, being like his father.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm like, how are we supposed to take that?
Well, I mean,
it seemed like it was a good thing the way she said it. She said it like it was just like, Because
the thing is, she had like, I don't know, probably I don't know how long the Clone Wars were supposed to take place, but it was like half a decade at least.
Right.
That she was fighting side by side with Anakin and at times Obi-Wan. So like, she really knew who his father was before he became Darth Vader.
Right. And so do you think that she thinks as Anakin as being Anakin separate from Darth Vader? Or does she think of him as just being a tragic friend that just kind of is lost?
Well, I know when they had that fight in that Sith temple, she knew exactly who it was.
Yeah.
She knew exactly who he was. Like, she called him out on it. Like, she cut off half of his mask. So I think kind of like Obi-Wan, like, she feels like she lost a friend.
Yeah.
Like, with my sort of thing of thinking about the dark side as sort of like an addiction.
Right.
She lost her friend to a really horrible addiction.
Right.
And unfortunately, that addiction also caused him to murder thousands of people.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I could see, knowing someone long enough and then them going down a really dark path and falling apart, and being able to talk to their kid and saying like, oh, I see this part of you that reminds me of your dad or your mom before this other thing.
Right. Because I took it as her saying it fondly instead of like worried. She didn't seem worried at all. She
wasn't like, oh, this reminds me of your dad's tragic downfall.
Right.
It's funny. I was kind of thinking in my head, like, with people being sort of upset at Luke, I was just like,
As far as what?
I didn't go into their comments, but it was like him forcing Grogu to make a choice. They felt like it was mean because, like, I think they also thought that somehow Luke wasn't going to give Grogu the chainmail shirt if he chose to be a Jedi. Like, honestly, Luke wouldn't be that much of a dick. I think he would have been like, all right, you're going to be a Jedi. Cool. This is what you get to hold on to for Mando. Plus, it'll help keep you alive because I just told you the galaxy's a dangerous place.
I don't think he would necessarily give it to him, but I don't think that it would be a wrong thing either. Because, like I said, it's really a choice kind of thing.
Exactly. It's just representing a choice.
And if he didn't give him the choice, that would be the messed up part. The
Yes.
fact that he gave him a choice, because he didn't have to do that. He'd be like, hey, you're a Jedi. I built this school. This is where your butt gonna be.
Right.
You have no choice. Hello, my new Padawan.
Right? Is your heart in this? But
Yeah.
I think, like, I don't know. There's just a lot right now in the culture war with just people tearing teachers apart all the goddamn time. And as a former teacher, for our listeners, 12 years, middle and high school, man, teachers get so much fucking shit. And they get shit for stuff that's also out of their control. So it's just like, there was a part of me like, back off, Luke. Like, even if you think he's making a mistake, even if, and here's the other thing, even if Luke somehow is making a mistake with Grogu's training, you have to remember that Luke is human and fallible, just like all the other Jedi. So I'm even not against necessarily some sort of storyline where Luke has to learn how to be a teacher. Because I think, as we've covered before, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're good at teaching it. Right?
And he did mention he'd be his first student. So of course there's gonna have to be some situations where he have to work things out. Considering it's his first situation and even wanting to do something like that, I thought that was pretty big. For the powerful part and the most important part was he was saying he was willing to do that.
Yeah.
To say yes to be in service of somebody else in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, what were they gonna do with Grogu if, say, the Mandalorian didn't feel that way about him? He's been disregarded with this power that he has no way to, do anything with, or to grow, or even to have a choice to grow it or whatever. So
Right.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool, but people are people, I guess.
People.
Yeah. So I will say I did enjoy the montage of him running through the forest like he did, the swamp with Yoda on his back. He had Grogu on his back,
nice.
and it was really nice. Like I said, they was just flexing on this episode. This episode was directed by Dave Filoni, and then also written by him, as well as
There was
Jon
some
Favreau.
interesting comments that I saw online about the fact that he was directing, because I think he's only directed 1 or 2 episodes of The Mandalorian prior, and that's like the entirety of his live action directing.
Right.
And people were kind of like, you could feel the difference. You could feel the difference between the previous episode with was it Bryce Howard Dallas?
Right, Dallas Howard.
Bryce Howard. She's got way more experience under her belt.
Right.
And it shows.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think Dave dropped the ball, but it was a little flat. Like with some of the shots and things like that, but it was fine. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't ooh. Right?
Yeah.
That's fine. It's not even like, I just wanted to call it that people were saying that, but it was not something that I noticed. So,
Put it like this: when she directed that episode, it stood out. It didn't make the rest of them bad, but it just showed a different level to it. That's all.
It had.
It's a bar.
It had more energy in the script, and it had more energy on the screen.
Right. So, and some of that stuff could be too, because sometimes, since he was kind of writing and directing, sometimes when you know too much stuff, it makes it harder for you to move because you overthinking. You have too many options. Versus if somebody else gives you the directions and you just driving, you don't have to worry about the details. Just where I need to go.
The middle sandwich of Mando going to visit Grogu and stuff, like, it was all pretty good. It was funny. I think the other thing that stood out was she called him Master Skywalker. Like, not Jedi Knight. Like, I think she called him Luke a few times, but she called him, I think when she was talking to Mando, Master Skywalker. Right? I forget if she was saying it to Luke or Mando, but
she said to Mando.
Yeah, she gave him that honorific. And she's a former Jedi, not even a master herself. I think she got knighted at some point, but like, she knows what that title means. Dave Filoni knows what that title means. So that implies a lot of growth for Luke since the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, it's interesting. It's also something I wish we got to see. Like, now that we got CG Luke and it looks pretty damn good. I know that whole thing is probably, now I'm missing sort of a whole era of storytelling that could be done, but whatever. I would also be kind of happy if, like, this is the sad thing, that they've kind of painted themselves in a corner of that all the Jedi are going to come out of Luke's school and they're all going to die, so you can't even have those side stories. It's just like,
are we sure he had the only school?
Well, they talk about in the sequels, it's just like,
yeah, his school was
there's no other Jedi. So there might be some secret Jedi, there might be some people running around with Ahsoka maybe, but as far as most of the galaxy is concerned, by the time of the sequels, there are no Jedi. And Luke Skywalker, the living legend, is nowhere to be found. So that implies that no one else is running around as a Jedi. I didn't realize I was going to get this disappointed.
Well, but who knows, man? Like, Mando did his own thing, so who knows? There might be Jedis walking around like Mando, have their own code, their own way.
So when Mando, gets that long view of, like, you can see Luke and Grogu up on the hill, my brain was like, is Mando gonna get fucking lightsaber training from Luke? No. Okay, cool. I was like, like, I mean, that's, dude, I'm amazed he didn't even ask Ahsoka. He would have been like, hey, so I got this thing. You guys use lightsabers, right? Like, I just realized that's not a plot hole, but that's like, dude, I know that you were 100% there for Grogu. That was your whole focus.
That's it,
but
man.
Just sort of like, hey, by the way, can you, I got this thing.
When he heard that he couldn't be there and couldn't see him, it was time to go.
Yes.
Nah. Like you said, it's an addiction kind of thing. Same thing. Stick your head in the bar. It'd be like, is Jimmy in there? Like, no, you want to come in and take a look and see? No, thank you.
Nope.
I'm out.
Nope.
I'm good. Tell my call. I'm not coming in there.
I like that Ahsoka explained it to Mando as much as she's explaining it to the audience.
Yes.
Of like, yeah, you could go see him.
Yeah.
But that is going to distract him. Like, the whole point of being a Jedi is, like, you have to kind of, like, give up your attachments to things. You coming back in, gonna make that much harder for him, right?
And he did get a chance to see him. He saw Grogu,
yes.
But Grogu did not see him.
Yeah. I think she did a very good job of soft talking him out of it. Right. She very made it clear, like, no, it's your choice, but this is what can happen if you go and talk to him, and this is what the potential impact will be on him. So
he's over there looking at Luke and Grogu fist bumping. Oh, he has a new friend. Okay, I guess I don't need to be here. Okay. Yeah, it was sweet though. Like I said, this episode had so much going on. At times, I forgot what show I was watching. For Boba Fett to be in this show, and for him, I don't even think he said anything. I remember he looked over when he was like, "This is the Mandalorian, the Joran."
Right. That's
he kind of looked over at him.
In a row, he didn't do anything.
Like, I was like, wait, whoa. It's just like, I don't know, man.
Okay, so totally random speculation, but that also might be Disney's like next level secrecy component. Because for all we know, none of the actors in that scene knew that Mando was in that scene, except for Fennec, because she's the only one that says anything, even acknowledging that he's there in the room. She's the only one that is in the previous episode talking to Mando. So they might have done that scene in a way with all those actors where they shot the scene not realizing that it's also included, because he's not standing with them either. He's off to the side.
But what I got to do with him talking about strategy or anything else? He could have been talking to the other guys in there. Like I said, that's a lot of quiet space in there for them all to be standing there looking at the hologram.
Right. And
don't try to fix it.
Yeah. There's energy that could have been put in that scene, because the classic thing is when you got everyone standing around the table, you do the orbiting camera. They got plenty of characters, but you got to also have all of them talking. So basically, the camera's going around and it's on the person that's adding to the conversation, and then the next person, and then the next person. But you've got to have the dialogue to support that.
Made popular by Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They've been doing it for years now.
Really?
Yes. 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 And then Angel as well. I used to love those team ups and those dialogue between all the characters going back and forth, man. Say what you want to say about Mr. Man, but he could direct his butt off. He could do some serious writing and have some great directing. Especially when he came to a whole bunch of people in a room. It was just like, him and Quentin, they could do it. Yeah, it just felt flat. The whole, like you said, like it wasn't offensive, but it was just like,
Here's the thing. That scene was flat.
Yeah.
Everything else wasn't.
Yeah, but that scene was.
That scene was just like, what?
Did we need that? It's almost like a run through. Like, okay, so next time with more energy, start.
Right. Just like, and welcome back to the Boba Fett show. Here's our situation.
Right, because he was unusually quiet. Like he's usually talking too much. Matter of fact, so for him to be standing there and being like, this is the guy going to get us people to help us, win this war.
Right.
Like I said, and like you said, maybe he wasn't in the shot. It's plenty of times that there's characters that are, not actually there and they're interacting with them.
Yeah.
Grogu wasn't there. Luke wasn't there.
I bet they did have a person and they drew.
I know, but I'm still yes. No, I'm just saying we're dealing in a world that they're not even in the world. So to be like it got in this day and age where that excuse does not work in this day and age when we have people talking to Rocket Raccoon and Groot and all that kind of stuff, and they're not there, and people are talking and dealing with and picking up and throwing around and shooting with and all this other kind of stuff. So for him to just look over at Mando and not say nothing, no.
Yeah.
Not acceptable.
Yeah,
no. Shoot, the room they were standing in wasn't real.
Well, yeah, it was probably the volume again.
Right.
I mean, they do have a physical set, but
no, you know what I mean, though. Like the whole, come on.
Yeah.
It's the land of make believe, so. No. Back in the day, maybe.
Yeah.
This day and age.
Again, all the insert Mando stuff from another show essentially just took a lot of the wind out of the rest of the episode. Specifically that scene in particular, where it's their strategic recap, like all the stuff with Cobb, the Marshal, Mos, Pelgo, the little buttfuck town out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, the one they call Freetown.
Right, Freetown. That was nice. But yeah, like all that stuff worked. But the stuff with, the character the show is named after, this last episode is going to have to do a bunch of work now.
Yes.
To put the focus back on Boba Fett and his crew. I don't know how they're going to fucking do it. The Pikes have upped the stakes, as you should do before your big climax, which is just going to be a cliffhanger. They've upped the stakes. We are blowing up the casino. okay, we as the audience don't really know where the pike are.
Right.
Like, they're just up on the cliffs.
You don't know how many of them are
Don't
there.
know how many. We still don't know anything of theirs that can be attacked. Blah 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 blah.
We just
Cad
learned.
Bane's in the mix.
We just learned that they're running spice. We learned that just last episode.
Like,
What
there's
is
so much
this?
work.
Where does plot come from? All of a sudden, we spent a lot of time in that damn tank, right? A lot of walking back and forth. A lot of him walking down, talking about I'm the man in charge, but I have no army. Okay, we had a lot of jumping on the rooftops in the village, and we had a lot of, getting assaulted after leaving the bar and all this stuff, right? And then we're gonna wait until episode 5 to start talking about these drug runners that were just casual people on a train that was just shooting at folks. You know what I mean? Like what? It's
weird looking back at like all the stuff that took place, after the flashbacks, like him going into town, the stuff with the mayor, the stuff with the casino, the hut. Hut was just like we're a threat. No, we're not. We just kind of introduced the Wookiee, and here's a Rancor, Danny Trejo. Bye. Right. There's a bigger bad. Why don't we just start with the big bad? Especially since the big bad first footprint is in the flashback. They are running the train.
Yes. Or I want to see Danny Trejo training, or whatever.
Right.
Something. Like I don't understand it. Like I don't. Man. So okay. Last episode was so much so. Mandalorian that I changed the thumbnail from Boba Fett.
That was slick. I like that.
From Boba Fett to Mando. Partly being a smartass, but also it was his episode. So now I gotta do that again for this one.
No. Here's what you do. You do halvesies. So you do the classic Spider-Man, where half of it's Mando, half of it's Boba Fett. I mean, it's mostly Mando.
Okay, now I do a quarter. 3/4 Mando, a quarter.
Quarter some
of
serious
Boba Fett.
Snark. That'll be fucking hilarious. Just like, what's going on with the logo? The Hutts showing up makes sense in continuity.
Yes.
Because they legit have a claim, all the rest of that stuff. But with the amount of storytelling time, that needs to be another shortcut where it's like someone has a side conversation of like, why haven't the Hutts come back to reclaim this place? Right? You just need to acknowledge that they might show up later, but it can be just a hanging question, right?
They said, peace out. They are gone.
Yeah.
You should leave too. We are gone. That's what they said.
The Hutts aren't staking their claim. Jabba has a whole family. Why haven't the Hutts come to restake a claim?
Right.
Okay, set up that question. So they could have done things like still could have acknowledged, even set up maybe for season 2 or 3 that the Hutts are going to come back, right, and stake a claim. But they wasted all this time with the Hutts showing up. Hi, we're the twins. Oh, nope. Our one attempt to kill you failed.
Right.
We're out. Like,
and you should go too.
If I was the Hutts, as grandiose as I might think my ego is, equal to my mass, I would not have shown my face at all. I would have simply sent the assassin. I would have simply sent the bounty hunter, right? And then when the usurper's dead, I would have marched into my new palace. Boom. But they wanted to show the Hutts, right? Wanted to show the Hutts, and then they had the Hutts leave. And the thing is, it's such a waste of the amount of episodes that they have when they also are planning to have Mando take up space. So, structure-wise, this season's not working as good as like Mando 1, Mando season 2. So I don't know what their end game is on why they're structuring it like this. I can just only assume we're not gonna get resolution on this season because they're setting up too many things.
I'll tell you this, when I look back on this show, I'm gonna think about these 2 episodes, maybe a 3rd episode. What if next week it'd be another Mando episode?
I will be baffled. I will be baffled.
What if there's another one? What is another Mando episode?
I will seriously have to wonder if there was like problems behind the scenes or something, and they just had to switch gear, which I don't think, even with COVID and everything else, I don't think they would have the space to pull that off.
Right. They sure have very nice, well done episodes for The Mandalorian. They seem to work those out pretty nice.
So
it's interesting, man.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this season's gonna wrap up.
In this short amount of time, Mando got a new vehicle. He got a chance to get a new beginning. He got a new sword. He's trying to work out. He has new challenges. Quest line. Exactly. He goes. He has his mission and all this stuff. And Boba Fett has a tank. He has a town and no army to protect it. And he just walks around posturing, and he's constantly getting put in situations he's out of his depth in the whole time. He don't even have badass status. He don't even have that. And then what we thought of him, it just chiseled away from even the lore of him. What do we have left?
Yeah, I don't know. Like the thing is like all the flashback stuff was great, but all the stuff he's done since basically taking over Jabba's palace is like, what are you doing? What are the storytellers doing? Like, I don't know. Now it really does seem like a lot of the other things that happened were just a waste of time in a weird way. So I don't know. And there might be, again, behind the scenes COVID things that like they wanted to do more, blah 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 blah, but they had to, like, maybe that's why we're only getting, I don't even know how many episodes like Mandalorian season 1 or 2 were, but like 7 doesn't seem like much.
No, it doesn't.
So I don't know, there might be behind the scene things where they're like, we had to tweak some stuff. But yeah, finished product wise, not knowing behind the scenes, this,
I don't know. Usually we hear about stuff going down when there's a problem, and I heard more stuff going down with the Mandalorian than I didn't hear nothing about this show, but the Mandalorian, it seemed like it was a whole bunch of stuff, and they still was able to pull it off with stuff with like the actor and then stuff with Gina Carano. It had stuff going on, and it survived. So
well, I think some of that stuff also happened after production. I know the Gina Carano stuff happened after production. I don't know about the Pablo Pascal stuff. But yeah, it's weird because it's like there's parts of this show that work. There's other parts that are like, I don't know, man.
Mandalorian season 1 and season 2 both had 8 episodes, which makes sense.
Maybe we're getting an 8th. I don't know. I checked IMDb the other day, and it's listing a 7th with no information about it.
Like I said, who knows? Maybe something will come up next week and it's gonna whatever. Like I said, I think it's gonna be another episode of Mandalorian. I don't know. I don't know what to think. Because
it's hard for me to think that they're going to do just one season of the Book of Boba Fett, like planning wise. Like, I would not be investing that much just for a one-off that's going to be a transition for another character. Fucking waste.
They gonna come back and do what? The truth of it is, I learned more about everybody else besides Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So I learned about the Tuskens, who I knew nothing about. You know, learned about the Hutts. I got to meet his family.
Yeah, they didn't use their time well. Yeah, a whole bunch of
right. It's a lot of,
like, not the enthusiasm we should be having going into the last episode.
It's not like we're not enjoying the episodes. We get to see these special effects. We seeing Luke come back, and we seeing, characters we haven't seen in a long time. We seeing new characters that we just got introduced in Mandalorian last season. So it's stuff going on. We got this cool ship that Mando has and stuff, and we get to see Fennec, and she's badass, and we get to learn about the different aliens and stuff.
The gas kind of went out of the show when it refocused on Mando.
I guess we'll see next week what's going to end up happening. I don't know how it's going to end. You have any last words on what you think is going to happen for next week?
Hopefully a lot, because they need to cram a bunch in now at this point.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. We'll see. All right, man, Ryan, it was good catching up with you as always. And until next time, think it through.
Someone has to.
Hey, this is Jay, and I hope you're enjoying the conversation so far. I just want to let you know that this conversation is part of a larger conversation that continues on the next episode. Thanks for listening.